Hello and welcome to the marketplace. Let's get into our stories. And government is continuing to defend its additional tax measures announced in the 2021 budget. They say it is crucial for the economy. A senior advisor to the Finance Minister, Dr. Samuel Ninoy Ashong, who addressed a post-budget forum organized by the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry a while ago, said everyone must share in the burden.
So when people go about saying that there's, we don't need the taxes, government might give this, government might give that, the reality is that the money is not available. And we must well recognize that and work within that tightrope so that we all have to share the burden, so to speak, to make sure that this nation, this country, does not fall off the cliff. So it may sound gloomy, but it will be for a while. And that is why the budget is calling for everybody on board to do their portion so that this nation can weather the storm. COVID-19 hit us. We didn't invite it, it came on board. We all have to brace it and move forward.
Now, Finance Minister Designate Ken Ofori-Atta at a PwC post-2021 budget forum also justified the fresh tax measures outlined in the 2021 budget. Now, government has been criticized about the levies announced in the budget, but speaking at a virtual PwC post-2021 budget forum, Mr. Ofori-Atta insisted the taxes are needed to quickly improve on revenue collection and stabilize the economy in the short term.
We all as a people recognize the enormity of the problem that we have, certain rigidities. But for us at the ministry, also telling if there are leakages in the petroleum sector, OMCs, who is it that is doing it? Because you know it more than I do. Can we form, a group to make sure that those things cease, and it's not the responsibility of government, but it's the responsibility of all of us, as a people, So the financial services sector, in like manner, we watched as, people broke the rules, but these associations should be strong enough and have the moral authority to begin to say that this affects our bottom line, and let's together, work at this. So really, I know there'll be issues about efficiencies and etc. But we are also, the pace at which we are going with digitalization, I think if we have these numbers at the right places, then really within 2 or so odd years, we should be able to move our revenue to GDP to the 20% that we want because of digitalization, etc., etc.
Former Finance Minister Seth Tekpe is cautioning governments to learn to explore other options of raising revenue to develop the country rather than taxation. Though he acknowledges the need to raise taxes as he did in his time in office, he believes there are lessons to learn from his era. He was speaking to me on Prime Morning on Joy Prime TV.
If you look at the midterm expenditure or budget framework that is presented in the budget, we are supposed to be reducing deficits. All the adjustments expectations are on increasing revenues. None on expenditure, because expenditure levels are going to be increasing throughout to 2024. I think that it's important for us, as has been said, to also look at, I know it's very difficult because interest payments and
Now, on his part, Executive Director for Financial Literacy Africa, Dr. Richmond Kwame Frimpong, says it may not be necessary to increase taxes at all if government develops more efficient ways to collect the existing taxes. He believes the 2021 budget would visit difficulty on the average Ghanaian.
It's painful because I was expecting that in this first year of this second term, where the government had the opportunity to be a little bit more innovative, more bold, more aggressive, to achieve a certain height, particularly in this window of COVID. We are missing that, and it's painful. Let me pick just one item of inefficiency. If we were to share the burden and take responsibility, for example, we could have taken like one of the expense side of the government machinery and efficiently trim that side. We don't see that. We pick things like the toll that we are increasing the levy. We can automate it. We say we are doing a lot of digitization, but we don't. If we apply the same digitization, for example, to automating our toll booths, and we even make funds available by people paying cash for the year for whichever toll lane they are using, funds could have been made available to government in advance, because if I have to buy a toll card and for the whole year maybe I'm paying 400 cedis, as the year begins I buy it, I pay the government, and it will not even wait for an end of month or an end of year before I get that funding. That becomes innovative. So it's not even about increasing the toll, it's about the efficiency. And if the efficiency is not addressed, even if the levy is increased, the same inefficiency is not going to bring us the mileage that we are looking for with the increase. And so that is where our effort should have gone into, that we are missing greatly. Again, look at public debts. There are a number of things that make up the public debts. The off-budget borrowing, the forex management, the budget deficit management, maturing debt and debt servicing. All these things are in the ambit of government. And so if we want to address a problem like interest payments, it means we have to tackle our debt management. And if you want to tackle your debt management, the things that make up the public debt are not being managed efficiently. So where do we say we are sharing the burden? I thought that effort would have been led from the government side. And let me say that truthfully, we probably have to embrace ourselves for an impending difficult year, because every one of these taxes is going to have a consequential effect on the final consumer.
Now, on his part, Stable's CEO Isidore Potiphar suggested that government appointees should take salary cuts to contribute to the development of the country.
6 months ago, we ran an operation in Tema with about 6 buses, transporting workers within the Tema industrial zone. With these buses, we probably spent about 6 months. We were spending about 30,000 worth of 30,000 Ghana cedis in fuel on fuel. 3 months ago, this had increased to about 45,000 Ghana cedis a month on fuel on these 8 buses. And just last month, the invoice that we received was about 52,000 cedis. Now, with the new increment, I won't be surprised if within the next, by the time the year ends, this would really double. So this figure then will double. So that's the impact. That's the direct impact, on us, on our operation.
Yeah, there's a price we all have to pay for a better Ghana, isn't it? According to Mr. Oforiatta.
I think that then government appointees, and especially the ministers and the likes, must be willing to also take the cuts, significant cuts, by the way, because then that is one of the ways we can reduce the impact, the financial impact on the general populace. But then if you still have government enjoying all the benefits that they are enjoying under the current jurisdiction, it's not going to happen anyway. So then that sharing the responsibility then does not become fair, or it's not fair.
Now, economist Professor Peter Korte is calling on governments to invest in automation to ensure efficient tax collection. He spoke at the just-ended post-budget forum organized by the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Businesses may pass the increase on to consumers. It depends on the elasticity. I mean, there are some commodities or some business lines, if you pass on to the consumer, they will not buy, they will switch. But if you study the market and see that you can pass on some or it's up to the business to do that analysis and pass on as and when necessary. But one ought to be careful, otherwise you might lose your customer base. Then the other is the rebates, penalties, suspensions. I think I've mentioned that already. That is going to certainly reduce the cost of doing business. If there's a rebate given to businesses, that's going to reduce their cost of business. The banks, in the case of the tax on banks, it's certainly going to they may pass it on to consumers. That can affect financial intermediation because we have quite a number of people who are not part of the banking system. And we need to get them into the banking arena. If we tax that area and it's passed on to consumers, I hope the banks will not do that. But if they do, then certainly it's going to affect the number of people who engage in financial transactions. Then in the infrastructure spending, upgrading transport networks and other infrastructure spending. If it takes longer to cut goods from one point to the other, as businesses, we should be concerned. The government is going to invest in infrastructure, be it soft or hard infrastructure, that is going to promote our businesses. So the implications of this spending would have some positive effects on business, and I think that has to be highlighted. We've seen a lot in the CARES program, the CARES of Atampa program, supporting private businesses with soft loans of 100 billion with other activities. Certainly, if government is able to find the money, I think that will help. I see in that program that government will provide 30% of the funding, and then 70% is going to come from the private sector. But my question is, if the private sector is already struggling, I don't know how well that can be achieved. Perhaps we may have to look at the funding arrangements, because in 2021, that might be difficult. Perhaps in the years ahead, government will be able to get more from private sector to fund this laudable program.
Now, the standard of living and employment to the country could be affected badly even after COVID-19 is brought under control. This is one of the concerns captured in the latest World Bank report on the Ghanaian economy. According to the bank, the massive job losses as a result of the pandemic has negatively affected the income levels of many families. The report also noted that most workers that have been asked to go home will not be recalled, even when the pandemic is effectively brought under control. This will in the long term worsen the poverty levels in the country. The bank was, however, worried that some of the policy measures being rolled out by the government may not be enough to correct the situation. You're live on the Marketplace with me, Daniel Dazif. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Marketplace. Now, last year, Parliament passed the Cybersecurity Act 2020, which establishes the Cybersecurity Authority, protects the critical information infrastructure of the country, and regulates cybersecurity activities, as well as provides for the protection of children on the internet. It is also targeted at positioning Ghana to prevent, manage, and respond to cybersecurity incidents in view of the country's digital transformation agenda. But in the midst of the global pandemic, where most individuals and businesses have resorted to online transactions, where does the country stand in the process of safeguarding transactions in the wake of cyber fraud? We have with us a tech analyst and chief executive of Slam Technologies, Samuel Boateng. Now, Samuel, tell us, what do you make of how much our tech space has grown in the midst of the global pandemic?
It's very quite difficult to put a measure on those numbers. But according to the Federal Trade Commission, we had a lot of attacks, which was about $20 billion coming from only Africa as a cyber attacks to the Western world. And so it's kind of a little difficult to break it down.
Now, tell me about this new law that was passed last year. Is it adequate in dealing with the crime in this space?
The law will have to be implemented first in order to identify the emergent threats that are happening in the landscape. And so it becomes a little difficult for now. At least it will just act in its own way, such as dealing with the crime frauds, and those ones are more, and I believe government should implement or enact or create like cybersecurity operations centers, and then train a lot of good people to be on the field to identify the traffic on a landscape. Otherwise, we just do the law, and the law will not probably suffice.
Now, you work with Slam Technologies, which deals heavily in this space, do you not?
That is correct. So SLAM technology functions a lot in a cybersecurity environment, building SOC, which is Security Operations Center, and we identify malicious activities, especially when somebody uses a phone in a crime scene. We are able to use that phone to investigate and find out how the crime happened, especially on that scene. Using all the other methods and different tools that are available in the market, we are able to deduce and are able to bring the person into to the court.
What's this help desk about?
The help desk that we are bringing is for SLAM technologies to introduce an anatomy or how to fix a computer. So we will break down in the different levels, computer training, computer training, and this is going to be free. Laptops, tablets, all other peripherals. So we can have and at least our part, we can do a very good part where people will be trained for free on the SLAM levels. And it's happening 22nd of this month, ending the 1st of this month. And also, we will offer, positions for people that are interested to work with us as well.
Thank you so much, Sammy, for joining us. Samuel Boating is with SLAM Technologies, and he brings us to the end of the marketplace. My name is Daniel Dazi. See you next time.